Greetings, and thanks for taking time to take out my video here. I want to talk about ninjutsu, and we'll talk about now. I'm tired of people talking about ninjutsu like it was the 15th century, and we're running around from castles and war. Ninjutsu is dead, in the traditional sense of the word. What we're left with today is the remnants of something that was created by just a few individuals. But when many people envision what a ninja or shinobi or Ninpo, and I'll briefly touch on the word Ninpo. Ninpo is the mother, is the complete system that holds the physical realm of martial arts, a spiritual aspect, and a culture or a sociology. You have to be able to understand warfare. And when we talk about the weapons that the shinobi used, we're talking about weapons that are very old. They're very ancient. The katana, the sword. Today in modern times, a sword is worn by soldiers in ceremony to honor history. It's even done in Japan today. But everybody knows that you don't bring a sword or a knife to a gunfight. Times have changed. And many people who look at this style of martial arts, they don't realize that this style of martial art has also changed, is also adapted, because it's based from a military system. People think of the ninja or the shinobi, and they clump it in together with a martial art, like kung fu, like karate, like jujutsu. Ninpo or ninjutsu is completely different. That's why I believe that ninjutsu, in the way that people view it today, has been dead for hundreds of years. It's certainly no longer around today. And people who practice Ninpo or practice ninjutsu today, in many ways are honoring certain aspects of history and tradition, like all martial arts do. They honor the past, but you have to bring to life what is relevant and what is new. And I believe that many systems of martial arts have done that in some way or another. Every system of martial art has taken what was done 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, and we've had to modernize it according to the laws of today and the reality of today. The reality is we're not at a civil war. We're not at war. There is no martial law. I can only use a very small percentage of historically what was available to me in this style of martial arts. I can't carry the weapons that were once carried. I can't use the tactics that were once used, or I would be in jail. So I've had to change, I've had to update, I've had to modernize. In some ways, I've had to water down to make this available to be able to use on an everyday purpose if I need it. Now again, if it's a life or death situation and you're completely innocent and you have an opportunity to have either witnesses or a camera that can record what you've done, and even then, you still have to be very careful at what you do. Over the years, I've trained many law enforcement people, and I would show them things, and they would say, wow, that's very effective, I love it. But I could never use it. It wouldn't be allowed in the police force. I'd show them something else. They say, oh, that's really cool. But I couldn't do that either. I couldn't do that either. Well, show me what you can do. And I had to look at what they can do and try to help them and try to modify what I know. It's very old and traditional in a way that they would be able to apply it in their jobs. I've had to do that with many civilians who work in different environments where they're around either a hospital situation or a school situation. Maybe they're dealing with some kids that are challenged, and it can get kind of rough. And there's certain things that you can do in those situations and certain things you can't. If you train in this style of martial arts and many other warfare styles of martial arts that are based off of war, you can't do 100% of what was available to that warrior in his day. We've had to change some things. So the way people view ninjutsu of the past, the traditional ninja, the shinobi, those days are gone, long gone. They're gone and dead. No one, and I say no one, unless you're in the modern military, special forces, or you're in an infantry unit, you're with the government, some CIA type situation, you're not applying because you don't have the authority to use deadly force. You don't have the authority on a day-to-day basis to be able to use these skills unless you're a modern day combat warrior in a battlefield environment. For us, in the civilian world, there's only so much that we can do, even in the lines of our own self-defense. You know, everyone says, yeah, if you get in a fight on your front porch, you need to drag him in the house before you kill him, and then kick the door in like he broke it down. And then hope somebody didn't film you kicking your own door in. It's a different world that we live in. So people say, well, why do you even study an outdated martial art based on Japanese feudal warfare that specializes in guerrilla warfare on top of that, where the knowledge that was used can't be used today? The weapons that were used can't be used today. So what exactly do you do now? I said, well, that's a good question. Something I think I should make a video about. Because a lot of people out there, when they think of the ninja, they think of this black clouded person running around with swords and weapons and sneaking around the shadows and running these secret missions, or some people think they're assassins. And I've been training since 1985. I'm a couple years short of 40 years. You know what I mean? So it's 4 decades. And I seen when Ninjutsu first started in the mid 80s, it was very popular. But even though it was popular, there was still kickboxing. Chuck Norris, Joe Wallace. There was a kickboxing scene that was seen as the real self-defense. If you did karate or kung fu, you didn't get in a ring with a kickboxing guy where it was padded up and he'd knock your ass out, and that was for real in that ring. So even though we were studying other styles of martial arts in the mid 80s, if you weren't in a ring competitively fighting, they didn't take you seriously. And I think some of that exists to this very day. If you're not into the UFC, or if you're not fighting professionally, then your martial art doesn't work. But I can tell you right now, I don't care if you study Kung Fu, you study Jiu-Jitsu, you study mixed martial arts, you study Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's only a handful of guys on this planet that can get inside of a ring or is willing to fight with their life on the line. You can go into any mixed martial arts school, and if they've got 100, 200 students, there's only a small percentage. I would say maybe 20%. 80% of the people that attend any style of martial arts, any style, they're there for the enjoyment of the art of whatever it is, whether it be the Kung Fu. They like the culture. They want to visit China one day. You know, you talk to someone who studies Kotori Shinto-ryu, and they're studying all the weapons, they're studying the history, and they're doing things thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So it looks exactly like their teacher, who looks exactly like his teacher, like his teacher, like his teacher, and you're just cookie cutting, stamping everybody out to honor Kotori Shinto-ryu. You know, Daichi-ryu is the same way. There's many styles of martial out there where they're trying to replicate history, and during that journey, you do learn some martial arts, you do learn some self-defense, but it's really the person. I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I can say there was cooks in the Marine Corps, there was mechanics in the Marine Corps. Just because you was in the Marine Corps doesn't mean that you were a well-trained infantryman. And then on top of that, you had the guys that were in the teams, and those guys were a whole nother level above that. So just because you're in the modern day military doesn't mean you can fight, doesn't even mean you're a soldier. There are specialized people in the military that handle that job. In Ninpo, in some cases, the same way. Ninpo was a lot of common people, a lot of blue-collar people. Samurai fought in groups of hundreds, if not thousands. They were very big wars. And when these armies came into your territory or your province, a lot of time these villages could not raise an army of 800 to 10,000 people to fight against these factions moving into their territory. So guerrilla warfare became a big way to even the odds, or at least gain the information needed to be able to prepare against them. Because you either rose an army against them, or you joined them, or you died. So in essence, a lot of people don't know that Ninjutsu was born out of necessity. Small groups that could cause damage and harass, and guerrilla warfare tactics that could buy time, that could provide information, that could change the outcome of wars. And if you were a military leader and you didn't have these agents that could gather information for you and run specific missions to help you stay alive, you were going to die. And if your enemy had these agents you better have them yourself. So I still believe throughout history, there's more people right now currently training in ninjutsu or Ninpo than there ever was during the heyday in the 15th century. We're talking about a very small part of the population in Japan that earned that title to be able to do it. First of all, many Japanese in the very beginning, the ninjutsu was like a bandit, the ninja, the shinobi. They were seen as someone kind of unhonorable. There was no desire for you to be a ninja. The samurai was where all the prestige and your opportunity to grow your land and your family name was where it was at. Over time, the ninja was seen differently by the common people, almost along the lines of like a Robin Hood, where the small would rise up against the mighty political force that was trying to dominate and control them. And there was a small group of warriors like themselves that were fighting for freedom, to end war and to bring peace. So even within the Japanese, the understanding of the shinobi changed from being this black bandit who was very running around in the night and covering his face, and there was no trust and no loyalty and no honor, to someone that was seen as someone who was helping unify Japan, and many of the common Japanese people would even protect them if they could. But that's a whole nother story. Over my years of training, very few people have truly understood what ninjutsu was in the past, and then what it is in the future, or at least what it could be, or can be, or in some cases is. A lot of people will watch videos on YouTube, they'll visit dojos, they'll meet people, and they'll base an opinion. And that's fine, that's what you have to do in life. You see things, you see enough of the same thing, you see a common thread, and you can base an opinion. But in Ninpo world, I would say there's a very small percentage of people that have adapted to modern times. There's a lot of people out there that are reenacting something very ancient. They're trying to play in a world of fantasy, and joining a ninjutsu school, they watch all the old black and white movies, and in their mind, they are that same 15th century soldier. And I think that's crazy. I think what you have to do is understand that this is what ninjutsu was used for 500-600 years ago. It was a very viable art. It was something that was real. There is knowledge in it, and there is knowledge that has been passed down throughout time, and there's knowledge that exists today. And most of the weapons and most of the training that the ninja did hundreds and hundreds of years ago is completely unrealistic to try to think about doing that today. You would just go to jail. It's not self-defense, it would be murder. So you have to understand that what we're doing today is, yes, we're honoring history and tradition and culture, just like every style of martial art. Every traditional style of martial art, whether it be Wing Chun Kung Fu, Daitaru, they're trying to honor their history and their teachers in some way. And we're trying to do the same thing in Ninpo. We're trying to honor our teachers, the heritage, and the information that's been passed down. Now, like all martial arts schools, you have a certain set of knowledge, and the 80% that I was talking about, their goal is to try to learn that material. They're trying to learn that material and reproduce it to the best of their ability. The 20% of every martial arts school is going to take the essence of that school, the essence of that training, and they're going to develop it. They're going to develop their bodies, they're going to develop their mind, and they're going to have a focus on being able to make that stuff work. The 80% that come to the school, they show up on time, the exercises is a chore, 10, 15 push-ups is a bitch, they like training, but they don't want no one to hurt them. They don't mind throwing somebody down the ground hard, but if somebody throws them down the hard, they're going to bitch about it. And every martial arts school has those people. They never last long. They may stay a couple years, get some belts. Hell, they may even make it to black belt. But at a certain point in their training, they get punched in the mouth too many times, and they're just going to say, you know what, this isn't worth it. I had a good friend of mine, trained for years, and I remember he got hit in the face one time, and I seen him was bleeding. I was like, hey, you all right? He said, yeah, I just got, just didn't move fast enough, whatever it is, boom. And he goes, man, it just sucks. I said, yeah, just clean it up and go. After class, he sat me down. He said, man, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to train anymore. And I said, what's going on? He said, I just don't love it anymore. I don't love it. You know what I mean? It's like, I've been coming here out of habit. It's been years I've been coming out of habit, man. I really didn't love it years ago, and I just completely lost whatever I thought I had something to gain from this. He goes, I know enough self-defense now to be able to defend myself, so I'm really not worried about self-defense. You know, I learned how to eat, keep myself in shape. I don't really need the exercise. I go to the gym. It's just I'm tired of it, man. I just don't want people stepping on my face, and the whole training aspect and what I've got to be able to do here, the risk of injury. I just don't love it anymore. I'm done. He goes, I don't understand after all these years how you can continue to stay motivated to train. And I'm saying, you know what? It's not that I'm motivated to train or I like this any more than anybody else. Matter of fact, I don't like getting punched in the face just like you. I don't like when somebody throws me down the ground. I don't like when somebody stands on my head. But you know what? It's part of an acceptance that I've come to terms with, because I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of failing in life. And martial arts has helped me succeed in life. And there's been other factors, but for me, martial arts has been a major player as far as how I've learned, the people I've rubbed elbows with, the knowledge, the sources, the recommendations I got for life have produced who I am today. It's a big part of it. So I want to continue now to pass that on to other people and help them like my teachers have helped me. So I'm in it for a little bit of a different reason. So you're going to find out that no matter what school you go to, Ninpo school, karate school, kung fu school, even mixed martial arts, how many guys who are studying mixed martial arts, training in cages, ever make it to a professional level? How many of those people, if you've ever been to a mixed martial arts school, how many people stay for more than a year or 2 years? How many people dedicate 10 years? How many people dedicate 20 years, become an instructor? Those numbers are very, very small in every style of martial art. And if you went to a mixed martial arts school and there was 100 people on the mat, there's only going to be a small percentage of that 100 that's really going to want to hook and jab and bleed on a match with you. Most people are there for some other totally different reason. And I think when people train with Ninpo, they come in with an illusion of this 15th century warrior that they're going to become. And I think they're wrong. I think that's a mistake to think like that at any given time. You need to understand what the shinobi warrior had done in the past. But man, what can we do with that knowledge? And how can we change it to fit today's society, to fit today's training, to fit today's life? You know what I mean? We can't throw poison shurikens. You can't cut someone down with a katana. I can't jump out of a tree and put a spike in somebody's spine. Even in a self-defense situation, you're going to have a pretty good story where you're sitting in front of the judge explaining how you killed 12 people with spikes and chains and shurikens and poison and weapons and knives. It's going to be tough. You know what I mean? So if you're doing Ninpo for self-defense, the knowledge is there. But just like every style of martial art, whether you're learning any style of martial art, the teacher is going to teach you a fundamental set of self-defense principles. If you don't take those fundamental principles and develop them, and develop your body, develop your timing, your speed, your strength, to be able to use it in a real life fight, to be able to use it in real life timing, you've got to pressure test these things. You've got to stress yourself out. You've got to go against multiple opponents. You've got to get hit. You've got to get hurt. You've got to get knocked down. You've got to feel what it feels like to punch somebody in the face, punch somebody in the chest, get kicked in the thigh 10 times so you can't limp for 4 days. You've got to go through all of this to be able to realize, okay, I need to train. I need to condition my body. I need to get in better shape. I need to also condition my nerves so I'm not as fearful, so I can think. So when I think, I can react. And when I react, I'm faster because I'm not thinking any longer. All that takes years, all that takes training. So it doesn't matter if it's Ninpo, mixed martial arts, any style of martial art that's out there. Whatever that teacher is teaching you, you have to develop it. And hopefully you're in a school that has some of this pressure testing. You're doing some light sparring in the beginning, so you build your confidence up. Then you realize, all right, I need to go a little bit stronger, go a little harder. I got to get a little stronger, go a little harder. And sometimes stronger is just not all about strength. Sometimes it's a mental strength. Sometimes you got to suck it up a little bit more. You got to realize that the end game, if you don't like getting punched in the face, then you better learn how to block, period. If you don't like getting taken down to the ground and getting slammed, then you better be preventing somebody from taking you down to the ground and slamming you. How do you do that? You got to train a little bit harder, faster speed, because when you get in a real life situation, It's not going to be dojo speed. It's not going to be everybody bowing. It's going to come hard, fast. It's going to be real down and dirty, ugly. And you got to sometimes train against lower ranking people that's coming with you a little bit wild and aggressive to be able to be prepared for that. So sometimes when you're training in that methodical way in the dojo, it's great to learn. Get it down, understand it. But you got to go beyond that. And then you got to go beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. And there's a fine line between going too far, where everybody in the dojo is coming in with braces and broken bones, and Fred's out for a month because I broke his tibial bone. There's a fine line between training hard and also training safe. But when I say training safe is not easy, and training safe doesn't mean you're not going to feel pain, and training safe doesn't mean you're not going to get some bumps and bruises and some injuries. That's part of any athletic thing. I don't care if you play tennis, pickleball, whatever. There's going to be a time you're going to strain a muscle, pull a muscle, and it's just your body saying, hey, we need to make that stronger. We need to make that stronger. So when people talk about Ninpo, and people talk about training, and people saying it's not effective, I don't even want to hear it anymore. The Ryuhas that are there in Ninpo are legitimate. They're no different than any of the other major traditional Japanese. There's tons of Japanese Ryuhas. They're all the same thing. They're all the same way. As far as I've been training all these years, you watch any traditional Japanese martial art, a lot of it may look a little different, be a little formality different, but man, the elbow only moves so many ways, the wrist only moves so many ways, the head only moves so many ways. The people can have they're choked out, their blood is only going to circulate to their brain for a certain period of time. Everything in human beings are going to be the same. The martial arts are all going to work against the weak points, no matter if it's Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Chinese, wherever you're coming from, the body's going to be the same. The human body's going to be the same. And all the weak points are going to be the same because it's all the same human body. Yeah, there's a little bit different ways of doing some things, but they're all attacking those weak points. So whatever that teacher is teaching you, you got to be able to want to develop it. Hopefully the teacher is helping you, but if they're not, it's still your responsibility if you love that style of martial art. If you love that style of martial art and that teacher is not developing you, then go find another teacher within that martial art that's going to develop you. There's somebody out there for everybody. There's somebody that's never going to hurt you, that's never going to take you down. You're never even going to break a sweat inside his dojo. You want one of those places? They're out there. There's also guys that's going to meet you in some garage somewhere, and he's going to be snorting cocaine, and he's going to beat the shit out of you, and you guys are going to knife fight every single night with real knives, and you're going to be cut up, and stitches are going to be a big part of your life if you don't die. Those schools are out there too. So there's something in between all that for everyone. You know what I mean? I've known guys that went to Japan and lived in Japan. They still can't fight. They can't fight because they've been living in Japan, training with the Japanese. And the Japanese are very humble, very respectful, and especially a traditional school, they're trying to honor the past, honor the culture. Yeah, they may talk about, yeah, this is going to work in real life, and this is going to, but if you don't train for real life, you can't do shit in real life, period. If you train in the dojo and you try to incorporate that in real life, and the timing, speed, and difference is there, you're going to get your ass whooped. You have to be able to take whatever style of martial arts you're studying and be able to apply that to modern day stuff. So you've got to be able to go to some other schools. You've got to be able to challenge some other people. You've got to be able to see what other systems do so you can be ready for all this stuff. So if you're just training in one dojo and you're training with one teacher, you're going and you got the same 15, 20 guys, you're training with those, that's really not helping you. You need to get out there a little bit. Go visit some other schools. See how some other teachers are teaching. See what they're doing with their students. I'm not telling you to quit wherever you're going. I'm just telling you to keep your eyes open. Check some things out. You can do it on YouTube. You can do it in your own neighborhood. But if you're not happy with the style of martial arts you're training with, it may not be the style. It might be the teacher. If the teacher's not pushing you and you like the style and you like the place that's close to your home, then goddamn it, you got to push yourself. There's ways you can do it without them. You know what I mean? But when it comes to Ninpo, we can't use the weapons that the ninja used to use. So you have to learn weapons we can use. You got to find things that are street legal, things that you can carry with you every day. If I could walk around like a 15th century ninja, man, I'd have a couple different swords, blades, knives, throwing blades, chains, poisons, blinding powders, couch up to throw on the ground so nobody could chase me. I would be able to disguise myself. I would use the night, the shadows, the weather, the time. I would have all the strategy I would use could kind of defeat my enemy. A lot of that stuff is illegal for me to carry. A lot of those principles that the shinobi would use are not practical for today's world. I have a family, I have a job, I have a career. So to live like a ninja in a ninja house or in the woods or booby trap in my backyard, the way a ninja would do it, I can't do those things. they're illegal for me to be able to do those things. But there is things in modern times that I can do. There is security systems that I can buy with cameras, with lasers, with alert systems. I can do things that the ninja did without causing death. And I know it sounds crazy to talk about, but when the ninjutsu aspect was training in the 15th century, if they got into confrontation, they would have to do whatever it took to survive. Just like if we get into a confrontation, we have to do whatever we have to do to survive. But we have laws that we have to live by. They did not. Big difference. Take the laws away from everybody, it's a crazy world we're living in. But because of those laws, we have to respect what we're doing when we get into a self-defense situation. Everything is not off the table. You've got to be able to understand there's a certain point in a self-defense situation where you may be seen by the court of law as an aggressor. You no longer were using self-defense, you were now attacking. You became the aggressor. So even though you were defending yourself, you could still end up in jail. So people say, well, I can't use ninjutsu, so why would I study it? Why would I practice it? Because there's tons of things that you can use. There's tons of knowledge. And number one, you have to like the art. You have to like the history of it, the tradition of it, the culture of it. You have to like the Japanese side of things. You have to understand where it came from. But with that being said, once you get past all that, you don't need the Japanese anymore. You don't even need the culture. You don't even need the history. You need to understand the results of what that warrior did. And I think that's where I'm at in my point in my life. The Japanese, they taught me a lot. They had a really good understanding. I learned a lot from them. But they're not me. They're not here. They don't live in this country. They don't even understand this country. For sure. The things that I've got to deal with on the modern times, they don't exist in many places in Japan. What I've got to deal with here in America is different. The people I got to deal with is different. The threat is different. And a lot of times when you're training in Japan, they're teaching you how to move a certain way. And that certain way is 100% outdated. And that certain way is not preparing you for a real life confrontation in a life or death situation. All it's preparing you to do is honor the past. It's teaching you fundamentals that are hundreds of years old. And those principles and dynamics are supposed to carry over into a real life fight. And I'm telling you right now that they do not. Those principles will only carry over if you develop them to be used in a fight. You could go through all the paperwork and get yourself a concealed carry permit, and you can carry a gun. You've done everything you had to do. You went down, you filled out the paperwork, you submitted the money, you submitted the forms, you went through a gun training program, you went out to the range and showed you were safe with that firearm, and you were issued a concealed carry permit. You're armed. You've got a lethal weapon you're carrying with you. A guy comes up and gets in your face, and things move really fast, and before you know it, you're unconscious because you didn't keep proper distance, proper space. You didn't have awareness of what's going on around you. You haven't practiced drawing your weapon. So before you knew it, you were hit, you were injured, and you were down. I've had police officers say that many times someone would be carrying a concealed weapon. Not only are they beaten up, but the weapon was taken, and now it's out on the streets in the hands of a bad guy. So even though you're carrying a gun, doesn't mean you know how to use it. You may have went to a martial arts school, and you've done all the basics. And you've done it exactly the way everyone has taught you how to do it. You might have even got a certain level, skill level in those basics. And those basics and those skills have earned you belts. You may have even awarded a black belt because you've done all the procedures that was needed and filled all the requirements that were needed to get a black belt. Does that mean you can fight? Does that mean you can use any of that talent or those techniques? It does not. Most people, again, 80%, train in a martial arts school just to honor tradition, past. They enjoy doing the art. But very few of them are artists that can create art. They're just replicating art. They're just reproducing what they've seen as art. But they can't create it on their own. That's the difference. Let's take a look at what Ninpo really is today. 2022. This is filmed in August 2022. What does Ninpo or Ninjutsu look like in today's world? What can we do? Why are we even training? Why are we training in an art form that was based off of guerrilla warfare during a time of war in a country that was at war, where 90% of what makes up this art cannot even be used in today's real world, in a real life self-defense situation? Can't carry the weapons. We can't use many of the tactics. A lot of the self-defense techniques were designed to kill someone. I might not have the authority or the right to kill someone because they swung at me, because they punched me in the face. Doesn't give me the right to kill them. They pulled out a knife and tried to stab me. Even then, I may not have the right to kill them, especially if a lawyer can prove that you've got a year, 2 years, 20 years, or in my case, 40 years. I was not able to control that situation. I was able to disarm that individual. That's the end of it. Anything else I do from that point moving forward, I become the aggressor. So what can we learn by being a Ninpo practitioner today? So we'll talk about the history. You learn all of that. The culture, how it was connected to Japan, how it was a big part of the unification of Japan. We talk about the Iga aspect of things, the Koga aspect of things, the ancient books that were written that's passed down the information. Once you get all that out of your system, there's a certain skill set in every martial art, so you look like that style. You look like that practitioner of that style. So you're going to learn some fundamentals and basics. Once you've got those fundamentals and basics down, either in the unarmed self-defense versions or in the weapons, you've got to be able to develop them to be able to use them a little bit quicker, a little bit harder, a little bit faster, unarmed and weapons. Some people enjoy it. I enjoy it. I like training with the different weapons. I know, because I'm real. I know I'm not going to use my sword out there in the street. I know I'm not going to carry a 7-foot halberd naginata in my backseat of my car and break that out in the alley and try to defend myself with a naginata. I know, realistically, I'm practicing these things out of historical purposes. I enjoy using them. I like how they fit against other weapons. I like training in that martial art. I like taking that knowledge as an artist and developing what I can do in the modern times. So yeah, this is what they did 500 years ago with this Yari. What can I do with it today? I'm going to take all their knowledge, combine it with what I know. What does it create within me? What can I do with it? You know what I'm saying? So in many cases, somebody will give you a guitar and you may want to learn 10 or 15 songs. I'm going to learn those 10 or 15 songs and know what a song's like. But I guarantee you, eventually, I'm going to start making my own music. Martial arts is no different. You're going to learn that fundamental foundation from all these different systems, but every once in a while, you're going to get together and you're going to see what you can do with it, and you're going to develop it. And I think all martial arts do that. Some of them forbid it. Some of them want you to be cookie cutter to the way it was done, and they don't want you altering or playing around with anything until a certain period in time. I've always believed that you should experiment with the knowledge that you have, see what you can do, and see what you can develop it to. Where can you take it? I'm not just happy with what they did 500 years ago. What can I do with it? You know what I mean? I'm 6'2". Japanese people generally ain't 6'2". Some of the stuff that they do is a little bit tough for me. But also, there's some things that I can do that they can't because I'm a foot taller than them. My reach is amazingly long to a Japanese guy. I've had Japanese people have to jump to hit me in the neck. They had to jump. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry about that. So there's things that I can do with my body style that they can't do. So I'm going to try to develop it. I recommend everyone to do that as well. So there's things called Ryuha. A Ryuha is a family scroll. These family scrolls exist in some form or way in every traditional system, no matter if it's whatever country it comes from. There's a scroll, handed down knowledge. In some cases, in Ninpo, some of these scrolls can go back to be 800, 900 years ago, 500 years ago. And these scrolls have been passed down for hundreds of years, going through many people's hands. I love learning those scrolls. It's where the fundamental root knowledge for our system comes from. So today, you still can learn from these scrolls. These scrolls are alive. They're out there. Many people know them. There's books written on, videos written on. There are seminars going on even to this day all around the world where people with authority who've seen this material are passing it down. So learning these Ryuhas, this core information, is very vital in my opinion. Once you've learned this information, is what can you do with it? How can you make it work? How can you bring it back alive? This was a technique that was done in warfare. What can I do with this same technique to make it work on the streets, to make it work in self-defense today? What principles and dynamics are within this kata, or this technique, that I can make work today? Some of the techniques won't work at all today. Many of them have core principles that if you develop them are very effective. And what's interesting, if you studied in all different styles of martial arts, Chinese martial arts, Japanese martial arts, Korean martial arts, you're going to see there's certain ways they bend the wrist, there's certain ways they bend the elbow, there's certain ways they choke people out because of where the veins run up and down your body. There's only so many ways you can do these things like I talked about earlier. So even though you're training all these different martial arts, in time, when it comes to self-defense, you're going to see things over and over and over and over that are attacking these joints, spots on the body called kyushos, weak spots, the same. They have different names, they're attacking them a different way, but attacking those spots. What you need to pay attention to is, yes, how they're doing it, but where they're doing it, why they're doing it, the timing of it. And these Ryuhas have hundreds of techniques, hundreds in each Ryuha. So when you study 5 or 6 different Ryuha, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways to attack and defend in a fight. Through all that training, you're going to find core principles that you're going to enjoy, that you're going to like, that you have fun doing. That's great. But can you develop them in a way where you can make them work unconsciously? They just happen because you've done it thousands of times. You've done it with resistance. Everything works when somebody's playing along. If they're bowing in, just letting you beat their ass, all this stuff works in every style of martial art. But when you get somebody that gives you a little resistance and says, no, you're not going to do that. You're not kicking me here. You're not punching me here. I'm not going to let you throw me. Then everything changes. And you'll see some great, great martial artists, when you start putting that resistance, just fall apart. They don't know what to do. You know what I mean? But I'll give you a clue. Pain creates movement. Pain creates movement. So a lot of times, if I need to do something to someone, I have to be able to create discomfort. I have to be able to create pain. I have to be able to create injury. And if I can't do that to my opponent, if I can't take his balance, take his mind out of the fight, then I'm on defense. But if I can hurt him, if I can make him uncomfortable, if I can create pain, he's going to be reacting to that. And the definition of reacting means that I'm in control. He's reacting to me. That's where you're going to have an advantage. So when you start doing pressure tests, number one, you've got to understand what they're trying to do. You've had to see it before. You got to know what they're trying to do. You got to have a counter for it. Now, when they try to apply it, it's too late for the counter. You've got to be able to have a certain sense of recognition to know, hey, this is what they're setting up, and be a couple of steps ahead of them. And not only a couple of steps ahead of them, you got to be hurting them the whole entire time. So martial arts and self-defense, they're different. Again, you have the art form that you're learning to make it perfect. History, then you got to be the artist. You got to play the music. You got to create the tune. You got to be able to do these things. And sometimes, many times, they're not going to be the way the Japanese or your teacher taught you in that dojo environment. It's going to look a little rougher. The dynamics are going to change. I guarantee you, however you did it in the dojo, in real life, you're going to have to get lower. You're going to have to start really using muscles. You're going to have to start using your body weight. You're going to have to start using angles. You're going to have to start applying pressure, pain. You're going to have to hit people hard to get the result of that movement. When you're training nice with each other and you're being friendly with each other and he's letting you do everything, trust me, in real life, all of that will not work unless you can make it work. And the only way you can make it work is to try it against resistance and try it against someone stopping you, not letting you do it. Now, he doesn't have to be an asshole and try to fight against everything you're trying to do in training. He just needs to give you some tension, some resistance, some, hey, I'm not going to be easy. This is going to be a little, you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to do it right. So when you're training with a partner and your partner's not doing it right, don't give it to him. Don't give him the movement. If he's doing something and it's not right, don't be an ass, but don't give it to him. Make him work for it and help him. Say, hey, this would work better. Let me show you something I've seen. Let me show you something that's helped me. Let's take a look at it this way. Hey, I see what you're trying to do, and that's great. Let me show you something else. Let me know what you think about that. Find a way to communicate with your training partner where you can help them without saying that's wrong. Because you may not be sure it's totally wrong. It may not be good. It may not be perfect. But it may not be wrong. So be careful with telling someone, hey, you're not doing it right. You're maybe doing it at a basic level, and there may be way higher levels, but you're not ready to do that movement just yet. And let me show you why, and you help them and you develop them. That's being a good teacher. But if someone's doing a technique wrong, and I go to the ground, or I fall down, or I let them just keep training, then I'm disservicing myself as a teacher, and I'm not doing nothing for the student. But if I keep telling a student, oh, you suck, you're doing this wrong, this is not right, you ain't paying attention, you better listen, you better watch, and I'm being critical all the time, then I'm going to hurt his self-confidence. So sometimes you got to be able to go baby steps and find something he's doing good, compliment on that, and then pick apart the little things slowly to help him learn. But that's a whole nother video. So the Ryuhas is where the knowledge comes from. So I recommend getting out there as a Ninpo student and saying, hey, where can I learn one complete scroll? I want to learn something. The foundation based off of like Gyokuru, Kukushinru, Kotoru. So let me start with Gyokuru. I want to try to learn all of Gyokuru, the entire system. So you can download the notes, you can download videos, but I'm going to go find a human being that can actually teach me and a human being that can watch me do these techniques. So I've learned the whole entire Ryuha. Great. You've got it. Good job. It's going to take you a while. Now you got to go find some people, and now you got to do that Ryuha with resistance. You got to do that Ryuha with somebody fighting against you a little bit. You got to do it faster. You got to do it stronger. In addition to that, if a technique is being done to you from that Ryuha, you got to figure out a way to escape it. So once you've learned that entire Ryuha, you got to go back and counter every single technique in that Ryuha. So if the technique ends with a certain technique, you've got to be able to find a way to counter that ending so you become victorious. And then in time, you're going to have to counter the counter. And that's where Hatsumi Sensei used to say play. He would want you to experiment with it. But he let everybody play too much. He should have cracked the whip just a little bit more and made people work. You know what I'm saying? Instead of saying play, go to work. But it's a business. You understand what I'm saying? It's a business. So the Ryuhas is where the knowledge is for Ninpo. So if you're a Ninpo student, go learn the Ryuhas. Yes, you got to learn the basic Kihon, get it out of your way. That should take you a goddamn week. Get that out of your way. You're always going to do the basics, and you always continue to do the basics, but you got to make the basics stronger. The way you make the basics stronger is experiment and playing with other things so you can add diversity to those basics. So yeah, I agree, the basics are important. Learn them, but goddamn it, don't take more than a week on them. You know what I mean? It's only 8 goddamn things. Learn them, get really good at them, and then get into the scrolls, get into the Ryuhas. And if that Ryuha has weapons in it, learn those weapons. Go out and buy it, go out and make it, go out and find it, go out and get it. Get the weapon so you can learn how to use it. Don't think you're going to carry it in your car like Highlander and break the shit out in a fight and use it. Them days are gone. The weapons are going to teach you distance. They're going to teach you timing. They're going to teach you angles. They're going to teach you ways to move. You're going to learn to interpret things. So weapon training is very good for you just to learn in general. And in a real life situation, especially with multiple attackers, weapons training is going to be really good for you because some things happen a little quicker with weapons. The distance changes with weapons. So weapons training is a learning tool. Is training with weapons going to make you a great street fighter, a great self-defense person? Absolutely not. But it's going to help. It's going to help. Plus, it's enjoyable. It's part of the art. You got to love it, so you got to do it. If you're part of this art and you don't want to train with weapons, and you think, oh, I don't want to work with that chain, or that kusari, or this Sikkelin chain, or this ancient things, if I can't use it today, I don't want to learn it. I don't want to waste my time with it. Well, you're a fool, because those things have knowledge. Those things can teach you things about your footwork, your stance, your balance, your timing, the way you interpret things, the way you see things from different angles. Weapons training is a necessity, I think, to develop a good martial arts student. Especially in Ninpo or Ninjutsu, you need to be able to train with some of these weapons. So a lot of these Ryuhas have them. Just understand they're teaching tools. They're fun to train with. A lot of times training with the weapons can be just as painful as training with the taijutsu. But then sometimes training with the weapons can kind of give your body a break where you're not getting busted up, kicked, punched, thrown to the ground. So weapons training is very important. Another part of Ninpo is that there's a certain sense of understanding nature and understanding the balance of nature that comes on the spiritual side of things. But most Ninpo schools have some type of connection to the outside world. Where if you train in a mixed martial arts school, you may go out on the beach, you may go somewhere in the woods somewhere, you may train outside, but you're just physically training outside the same shit you did in a dojo. A lot of the good Ninpo schools will work with land navigation, terrain analysis, map reading, reading the stars, daytime, nighttime, compass reading. You're going to learn how to cross rivers. You're going to learn how to swim. You're going to learn how to work with ropes and lines to be able to move people. So there's a lot of things that you'll learn. Now, that's generally not only in Ninpo. If I was in a good mixed martial arts school, I think the diversity and be well-rounded, I would still have my guys outside and I would still teach them. Even though I'm doing mixed martial arts, I'm still going to teach them survival skills. They're going to need that. If I was a mixed martial arts teacher, I would teach, this is how you start a fire. This is how you purify water. This is how you can build a shelter. This is what you can do with a tarp. Use the ropes. Here's some lines. Here's some knots. I think everybody should have a bag that has survival cool tools in it. Get a good axe, waterproof matches, those type of things. So learn basic survival skills so if you ever need them, you have them. If you're going to be a martial artist talking about self-defense, self-perseverance has to be part of that. The way you can preserve yourself is to know how to stay alive in dangerous situations, how to prevent them. So having certain things in your car, having certain things in your house, those things are ninjutsu principles, but they're just common sense that every prepper, every survivalist, every bushcraft guy, every hiker, every goddamn Boy Scout has these things in their arsenal. As warriors, we should have it too. The Ninpo guys and traditional Japanese training or just training in general, there's no difference. The only difference is that in a good Ninpo school, it has a whole bunch of bushcraft. It has a whole bunch of modern military tactics. It has all of the self-defense. It has all the weapons. It has indoor training. It has outdoor training, daytime training, nighttime training, cold weather training, river crossing. You learn a whole bunch of things about modern firearms, not only how to shoot, but how to clean it, how to be safe, how to take it apart, how to put it back together, how to recognize when a gun is jammed, what to be able to do if someone pulls a gun on you. Those tactics are all part of every style of martial arts training. But in Ninpo, modern weapons and modern technology are part of it in a good school. You go to a bad school, it's 15th century. If you go there and you're playing ninja every day and everything's like a black and white Japanese movie, get the hell out of there. They're not going to help you at all. Unless you enjoy that historical reenactment and you just want to kind of be part of a dojo environment, you like the ancient ninja stuff and you want to train in it, you want to learn it, and you think you're going to find some secret scroll somewhere one day, then stay there. But if you're interested in moving forward your life and learning self-defense, you want to find a good Ninpo school that's going to teach you the scrolls, teach you the weapons, develop how to make them work, not only to honor tradition, to honor the scroll, but how to make them work against someone proficient at them, someone that's skilled with them. You can hang with them. So you got the timing, the reflexes, the balance, the coordination, the angles to be able to hang in the weapons training and the self-defense training. Then you got to be able to develop them to make them work those ancient techniques in a modern world. Two things. Learn it, perfect it, make it right, honor tradition, honor the scrolls, get all that done, get it out of your system. You've learned it. That's hard. You've learned it. Great. Now, learn how to goddamn do it. Learn how to make it work. You know what I'm saying? Don't just be happy with, oh yeah, I know that scroll. I learned that scroll. I trained with this Japanese guy. He taught me all that stuff. I don't give a shit if he taught it to you. Can you do it? Can you do it in real life? Can you make it work? Can you have someone come up to you from another style of martial art and challenge you or question you about something? And can you make it work on him who's been trained for 25 years and he's in prime of his life and he has no respect for you, but he's trying to challenge you in front of students? Can you make that technique work in front of that guy, on the spot? Or if you're walking down the street, you got to do it in real life. Can you make that work? If you think you can make it work, then try it. Try it with somebody who's going to resist. And don't do it with a buddy who's going to be nice to you. Find somebody and say, hey, don't let me do this. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful. Because if you do it and he's resisting, 911, you're going to put somebody in a hospital. That's what any martial arts system. That's what any system. It's not just the Ninpo techniques. That's anybody. If this guy's giving you resistance, these techniques were designed to break, crush, kill, destroy. They were all used in battlefields. So they're used to work. So be careful with the training. Because I don't want to get a whole bunch of people out there sending me videos saying, yes, Sensei, I was working on this technique and I broke my cousin's arm. You know what I mean? Or I didn't mean to hit him in the neck that hard. You know what I mean? Now he's all screwed up. You know what I mean? So just be careful with your training. There's got to be that fine line between you pushing yourself, and you're going too far. You know what I'm saying? When I was in the Marine Corps, they said if you weren't throwing up and if you were still conscious and you stopped, you were just quitting. That if you went too far, your body would throw up or you would go unconscious. That was a telltale of where your baseline was. When you threw up, you went too far that day. You went unconscious, you went too far that day, or you didn't eat right, you didn't hydrate enough, didn't have enough salt in your system. There's reasons why you went unconscious, but your body's telling you something. So in martial arts, it's the same way. For me, if I'm training and I lose ability to use, I can't pick something up, or I can't hold a pen, or I can't drive my car, I can't tie my shoes, it's debilitating my life, then I went a little bit too far. I need to back off a little bit. You know what I mean? But if I'm training and I can go through life and I'm just kind of sore, or I got a bruise, or I got a little cut that'll heal, that's fine. That's training. That's what it's supposed to be like. But when you start to lose function of your body, then in a real life situation, you're injured. You can't defend your family. You can't defend the people that you love if you're training so hard that you're debilitating something that you can't use in a life or death situation. So there's my advice. Train as hard as you can train, making sure you can still use all your digits, your fingers, where if you had you might be a little sore, might be a little tight, but if you had to, and the shit hit the fan, you're ready to go. But when your life is on the line, and you got an injury from training that prevents you from defending yourself, and you end up dead, then that training killed you. You pushed yourself too hard, and the training killed you. So it's the opposite of what you were trying to do. So be careful with that, all right? So hopefully this gives you a little idea of what Ninpo was in the past, how I believe that it's dead and it's gone and it should be gone and it should be out of your mind as far as trying to emulate that today. It's a waste of time. You want to honor history by preserving it so it can be passed on. You want to learn all the fundamental skills that history has to offer you, so you want to learn it as correctly as possible. So again, you're honoring tradition, but also you're learning those fundamental dynamics correctly. That's important. Now you take that and you got to develop your body, the techniques, to be able to make them work in real life. You take that practical knowledge of training with that stuff in real life, and you go back and you do it the scroll way. You're going to do it at such a higher level because you understand the dynamics better, because you had resistance, you had somebody stopping you, you had to make it work, you had to find a way to make it work. Sometimes if you're muscling through the technique in real life training, your fundamentals weren't strong enough. So you got to go back and drill to get your fundamentals strong enough. So when you pressure test it again, you're getting the good result without so much muscling, so much strength, so much energy, that the proper timing, distance, form, balance, angles, and power coexisted to make the technique work because your fundamentals were sound. So a lot of times I'll see people muscling things because they're making up for a weakness in their skill, a weakness in their training. So it's always a balance between perfecting the fundamentals and making them work in real life. The harder and harder you're struggling to make them work in real life, sometimes you got to go back and get some help from a professional that can watch you do the basics to make sure you got them solid. The basics are solid. It's still going to be hard to do it in real life timing, but you're going to understand quickly that if you start doing these things ahead of time, not reacting to things, but you're taking control of things by recognizing things quicker. Your hands are in the right place when you do everything. Your feet, your timing, your distance, your balance is in the right place at the right time. Then real life training gets a little bit easier. In the beginning, it's going to be muscling, and you're going to be struggling, and you're going to be straining, you're going to be using a lot of strength, a lot of power. But once you get better at it, your weight is going to be down. You're going to shift your weight evenly. The timing is going to be there. The distance is going to be there. The angles are going to be there. Everything that you hit is going to have an effect. It's going to create pain, again, which is going to create movement. And that movement, you're going to predict what's going to create that movement, and you're going to take it. You're going to take it knowing you're going to create it. And it's going to be an inertia of everything you're doing and the opponent trying to stop you, but they can't. When you get to that level, you got it. You got something going on. Then take that knowledge, go back to the basics, do the technique again with all the knowledge you gained from the real life training, and make this work even more efficiently. You're going to start to unlock things from there. And then when you get to that point where you've learned it, you've mastered it, you've applied it on a real life situation, you've gotten good at it, you went back and took the Ryuha technique to the next level by using the experience of the real fight, then start to really study the name. Start to study the meaning of the name. Start to see how that technique fits into the chapter of the Shoden, Chuden, Okuden. See how that fits into that. And then start to do the whole chapter in a real life situation so you can see how the flow of that fight is different from the Shoden, from the Chuden level. Once you start getting to that level, you're getting somewhere as far as being a really good Ninpo practitioner. You know what I mean? So learn the basics, get them out of your system quick. Don't shortcut them, but don't spend forever thinking you got to spend years on the basics. Get the basics down so you can explore and move on. Focus on the Ryuha training. Focus on the scrolls. Kukushinru, Shinden Fuduru, Togakuru, all of it. Focus on the main scrolls, whatever you want. And it doesn't have to be a Takamatsu Dan, Bujinkan, Genbukan. Learn scrolls. Learn traditional scrolls. Throw in Katori Shintaro. Throw in other things. There's tons of Kitaru. There's Yoshinru. If you can find traditional training, throw in mixed martial arts. Throw in boxing. Throw in kung fu. Just train. Train in the physical art. Remember I said, Ninpo is physical training of the physical martial arts, spiritual, and sociology. So for me, Ninpo training, physical is physical movement. No matter if it was Chinese martial arts, Japanese martial arts, any kind of martial arts. I have all these scrolls, I have all this knowledge, but I want to take those core principles and develop them. That's why I'm learning them. I'm learning them so I can make them work in real life to be able to defend myself. I'm not a collector of movement. I don't want to just collect movement. I don't want to learn all these different scrolls and learn how to collect movement that I can't make work in real life. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason to do that. It's like collecting money that you'll never spend. I want to be able to collect my money, and I want to be able to buy the things that I want. And that's how you turn your training into action. I want to be able to make it work. I want to be able to apply it. And that's not just the physical stuff. When we start talking about the spiritual training and developing as a human being, I just don't want to learn a bunch of words and go, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to be able to apply those philosophies to my everyday life so I can make myself and the people around me happier. And when you can make yourself and the people around you happier, your life is going to improve. And then when you can start to understand the dynamics of different cultures, different philosophies, different ways of life, and being understanding, not being ignorant to them, being understanding of those cultural differences, being understanding of knowing that history of those individuals and how they've gotten to this point in life of who they are, whether it's good, bad, whatever it is. But understanding some of that will make you wise to how to deal with them. And that's going to make your life a little bit better too. So some of these things I'm talking about right now is what Ninpo is all about if you have a good teacher. Because there is a spiritual side of the training. Because you don't want to just be a cold-hearted killer. You have to balance that out with a good heart and a good mind. And the only way you can do that is to understand the fellow human beings. So you have to understand who they are, where they came from, why they think the way they do. And when you start to recognize that and see that in people and understand who they are, you can make friends with everyone. You can make friends with everyone. If you make friends with everyone, you no longer have any enemies. If you no longer have any enemies, you don't have to worry about all this physical stuff anymore. Now you're doing that almost like yoga, just to keep your body in tune and in shape. You've got to be ready for whatever happens. So no matter what stage in your life, even though I'm in my 50s now, I may not move like I was 18 or I was 20, but I've got to move well enough now to still be able to take care of myself and my family. And when I become 60 or 70 or 80 or 90, I may not move in my 90s like I did in my 50s, but I've got to find a way to balance things out so I can still preserve myself and the people that I love. So that's also what martial arts has done for me. It's given me a vehicle to be able to stay safe. It's given me a vehicle so I don't have to live in fear. It's given me a vehicle for me to be able to learn. No matter if it's Ninpo or any style of martial art, whatever they're teaching you, take it to heart. Make it part of your life. Don't make that training a small part of your life. Make it a larger part of your life. And if you can't make it a larger and larger and larger part of your life, so it now defines the fact of who you are as a human being. Like you are an artist. You are a martial artist. Not that you're a fighter, not that you're a killer. You can fight, you can kill, but you also know how to help people. You also know how to help yourself by not making stupid mistakes. So you can live and be happy. all of this is what a martial artist is striving for. You know what I mean? If you just want to be a fighter, go be a fighter. I was a fighter. I used to like to fight. I got in a bunch of fights. I got my ass kicked a lot too, because I wouldn't fight anybody that I could beat. If I knew I could beat his ass, I would just push him away like a child. But if it was somebody giving me a hard time and I felt scared and I thought this individual was a challenge, I was dumb enough to say, you know what, let's see what this bitch has got. And I'd go at him. And sometimes I got my ass whooped. That was a long time ago, but I guarantee you even today, if I mess with the wrong guy, I'm probably still going to get my ass whooped. But it's going to be a tough-ass 30 seconds, I promise you. Keep training. Keep training. Don't blame your teacher. Don't blame your style. Don't blame your system. Blame yourself if the shit don't work. Get out there and work with it. Make it work. If you don't have a place to go and you don't have people to train with, the United States Ninpo Academy, and there's a whole bunch of people that I'm connected to. All around the globe, there's people you can get with. I have a Patreon page. It's a hub for everybody to meet. Get together. Let me know, hey, I want to train. I want to learn. I'll help you. I'll find somebody in your area. I'll find somebody that can help you. If not, we do some online classes. We do some things like that. I got some newsletters. I got ways. You can travel to me. I'll travel to you. We'll find ways to get you training if you really, really want to train. So there's no excuse for that. But there's a lot of martial arts schools out there that's about business. It's about making themselves look good. It's about having all their students fear them so they feel good about themselves. I went through all them stages. This stage of my life, I'm here to find some peace, find some happiness. I like being around other martial artists. I like being around people because people that are involved in the martial arts, especially on the Ninpo side, you know, they're a little bit crazy. You know what I mean? It's fun. It makes life fun. And I found it in all martial arts. I don't care where you're at. You know what I mean? You got a whole people that take themselves too damn seriously, and they're a bore. I get bored with them real quick. Then you got the people that's out there that's still young and trying to sow their oats, and they just want to challenge everybody and run around the world and just, you know, test themselves out. They're fun to play with 10 or 15 minutes. Then I realize I'm going to get hurt by them, or I'm going to be taking it too easy on myself, and they're going to hurt me. Either way, one of us is getting hurt. So I find somebody else that can feed that fire. I'm done playing with fire. And then what I'm trying to do is help people, man. I'm trying to help people learn, trying to help people find their way and their goal in life. You know what I mean? So the United States Ninpo Academy, I don't care what race, creed, religion, sex, who you are, what style you train, if you train 1 day, 100 years, you got 10 black belts in this, no black belts in that, I don't care. If you want to learn, you want to train, you want to put the effort, I got a place for you to get together with. So that's a little picture of myself. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina now. So I'm down here where I can train all year round. It's a good opportunity down here for me and my family. So if you're in the middle part of the country, if you ever come out to the beaches down here, let me know. I'd be more than happy to hook up with you, man. So until then, peace. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care.